All right, let's talk about Patrick Mahomes. Let's talk about this good Bills defense. Should be a very entertaining matchup. But first, I should mention that this is actually a two-parter. If you missed the first part, check it out on this channel. Should have been uploaded recently. Check out the channel. You can find it there where I previewed the Bills offense, how I think that they will attack the Kansas City Chiefs defense, how I think the Chiefs will try to counter all that stuff. My final prediction was 32 points on a 12-drive game. But anyways, will that be enough to beat Kansas City? Well, let's talk about Kansas City. Let's talk about how to match up against the Bills defense, which, as I said, it's very good. So here we go. First, what we're looking at here is this is where both teams ranked in specific categories in terms of their PFF grades. I know, PFF sucks, whatever. I think these things are worth looking at. And I've always said, PFF tends to be more right than they are wrong, but people pay attention to where they're wrong. One of the ways people will pay attention to it would be the passing game for Kansas City. They're saying that Patrick Mahomes was 13th this season, which I actually do understand. Mahomes did have some bad games. It's not predicting, how good is Mahomes or how good will Mahomes be in the future. It's simply saying how did Mahomes play this season, which is a little bit more fair. But that being said, we all know that we can put in our minds Mahomes is clearly better than the 13th best quarterback, so that's worth noting. Receiving core has been 11th this season, pass blocking 6th to the Bills' 10th best pass rush and the Bills' 3rd best coverage. So it's good on good right here. The Bills actually rush the passer pretty well. The Chiefs, pass block well. The Bills cover really well, and obviously the Chiefs can pass with the best of them, largely on the strength of Patrick Mahomes, who is not who is a top 12 quarterback in football. Don't at me, PFF. Again, having a little fun there, but for the running game, this is also fascinating. The Chiefs should be able to run pretty well. They run block very well. This Chiefs offensive line is really good, and yet people criticize them because Mahomes runs around for 10 seconds every play. But no, the O-line's good. It's banged up right now, so that's an issue. But when healthy, it is good. The running game, though, not the best backs, not the worst either at 19. And then Bills' run defense sitting at number 11, according to PFF. So maybe a bit of an advantage for Kansas City there. Don't know how much, and again, how much does this really matter when you have Josh Allen and Mahomes, but worth talking about. Now let's go over to these statistics. So what you're looking at here is we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the last time these two teams played. I just think there's so much you can learn from watching these teams play earlier, even though it is worth mentioning they are two very different teams now. This was week 5, but they're still, all the starters are for the most part still there. There's some shifting here and there, but there's a lot of similarities. What we saw the last time was Mahomes. The bulk stats weren't horrible with 272 yards, but he threw the ball 54 times. So they weren't really moving the ball that effectively. He just threw the ball a lot. So Mahomes was also the leading rusher in this football game, so that's not spectacular. Usually you want a halfback to be the leading rusher unless you're, I don't know, the Baltimore Ravens. Also kind of fun fact, Josh Allen was the leading rusher in the other side. So two quarterbacks also moving the ball. But again, part of me also would say, hey, Mahomes actually ran the ball pretty effectively. He used his scrambling ability to his advantage. That is a benefit to his game. So it's not the worst thing in the world. It can actually be considered a positive, although the overall running wasn't spectacular either in this one, even though it seems like on paper it should be a plus. And for the receivers, McCole Hardman, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce all had over 50 yards, but no one really went off in this one either. Going over here now, so this is where everyone on the Kansas City Chiefs offense graded if they played in that first Buffalo Bills game at week 5. This is where they graded. They're in order, best at the top, worst at the bottom. Kind of interesting. You see a couple offensive linemen at the top. Creed Humphreys at the top of a lot of lists, so that checks out. And even, Joe Thuney is high up there as well. And even Mahomes relatively high up there. He's not he didn't have a classic Mahomes amazing day, but it's not like Mahomes just sucked and you can say, okay, well, he won't suck again next time. No, he was fine, although not what he typically does. You look at the bottom of the list, so you have some wide receiver play and some halfback play here at the bottom. That's a lot of it, which, listen, that's kind of an issue when you're going up against a team that covers very well. So maybe some hope that they can play better next time. In fact, their highest graded receiver in this game ended up being Josh Gordon, who had 9 snaps in it. Meanwhile, for Buffalo, a lot of good stuff here on their side of the ball. I mean, some good secondary guys getting high up and some good defensive linemen high up, so that's good to see. over at the bottom, it's kind of some guys who weren't even like every snap players who were the worst. And one interesting thing is that number 14, Tre'Davious White here, who, listen, I think that's kind of something that maybe Kansas City was thinking, hey, this is the reason for optimism, is the fact that Tre'Davious White, obviously no one wants an injury, but the bright spot, if you're a Chiefs fan, is, well, that could make things easier for us to attack this defense. And while I would probably agree with that, still, it's not like he had a great game the first time these two teams played each other, so they might be okay without Tre'Davious White. Anyways, let's get into the film. First, we're going to start off with this play, which is, albeit a bit blurry. I don't know why this play is a little bit blurry, but we'll just have to deal with it. It's not on my end. This is when I screen recorded, this is what it was like. But anyways, it's a good concept to try and beat this coverage. The Bills are playing zone. You basically have Tyreek Hill getting used as a decoy here. Another player kind of runs over, and the corner is going to bite in. You can hit, tight end, who's going to be Travis Kelce, further deep. Watch how right when this play begins, you're going to see Mahomes is going to fake the handoff, and at this point, Kelce is wide open. And quite frankly, this kind of stuff is what we saw a lot of from Kansas City, and it's what we saw a lot of from Kansas City early on in the season. Remember, Kansas City was certainly going through a slump early on in the year. Watch how Mahomes is going to just airmail this. And maybe it was a miscommunication thing, I don't know, but that's not ideal. This one's another one where it's going to be almost, an identical play. It's not. It's different, a different kind of concept, but the same outcome, basically. Mahomes is going to expect Kelce to keep running here. Kelce instead just stops, and Mahomes throws it over the top of him, nearly gets intercepted there, does fall incomplete, and Kelce was open. I mean, those were yards to be gained, and that's what I'm looking for, and to me, this is signs of optimism for Kansas City. These are things that you could have had the first game and just missed, and because of that, it kind of leads me to believe, hey, there's actually some hope that this next time you'll be able to hit that stuff. You aren't in a slump anymore, and this can make things work out better. Like this one's going to be another play of a very similar thing. It's a zone coverage play. You have Tyreek Hill running over the middle. These are the kind of stuff that you typically are good at. I mean, this is, quite frankly, typically Kansas City is good at everything. But the way it's supposed to work is there should be a gap in coverage that Hill can be open through. Mahomes hits him, and they pick up a first down here. And as you see, all of this stuff is going to work as intended, except Mahomes just underthrows the football. So again, not the best stuff from Mahomes. And this is kind of one of those reasons why Mahomes was graded the 13th best quarterback according to PFF, was because of stuff like this that he did have going early on in the season that he was, again, did overcome, but it happened early on in the season. I actually think something like this is a really good example. Because again, what's the narrative of Mahomes? When teams drop back and play like what we're seeing here, a cover 2 zone, and Mahomes has to just sit back and run an offense and kind of do the boring stuff, he doesn't. He still looks for deeper stuff, and it ends up hurting the offense. And is that narrative overblown? Probably a little, but it's true to some degree. I mean, this is not what Mahomes loves to do, and he's gotten better as the season has progressed, but in this first game, he really didn't do a great job at it. Watch how when Mahomes takes the snap, there is some openings right underneath. I mean, you see several players who are open underneath who you can make a throw and gain some yards. That's what can happen. Instead, Mahomes looks for a home run ball, but nothing gets open and has to throw the ball away. So you're losing yards on plays like that I think Mahomes won't make those mistakes this time. I think Mahomes will say, hey, listen, we're playing a good defense. I'm going to take what's in front of me. Although, for Buffalo, that's not a bad matchup, not a bad situation either. Obviously, you love it when Mahomes just throws the ball away, but even if Mahomes is taking these quick checkdowns, that's not a bad spot to be in either. Because something like this can happen where it's pretty simple, but this is absolutely something that can work. And this is why a lot of teams like to do this, 2 safety deep coverages against good quarterbacks, is because you're forcing them to have to throw the ball underneath, you're forcing them to have to get rid of the ball and just run 12-play drives where things can go wrong. Watch how Mahomes takes the snap. He is going to try and throw a check down here, and his halfback just drops the football. And when that kind of stuff happens, this is obviously really good for Buffalo as you're playing right into their hand. And especially if this stuff happens on like a 2nd down and 5, well, boom, now you have a 3rd down. Now you have something you have to worry about. For Kansas City, you still kind of do have to take that when it's there, but there's those reasons for optimism for Buffalo, I think, is that this stuff can work out. Although the flip side for Kansas City, maybe you say, hey, we're just better now than we were then. We'll handle this stuff. I also want to bring your attention to something that I find very fascinating, which is something right here. This is something I want to see Kansas City do a lot more of. So take a look at the right tackle going up against an edge rusher right here. I kind of like this stuff. When you have a mobile quarterback, do this more frequently. Watch how he's going to basically purposely get beat to the inside, which now allows Mahomes to get outside the pocket, gets a good angle where he's able to throw and hit Travis Kelce. I mean, Mahomes is so great at throwing on the move. Get him outside the pocket. Why not? I totally think this makes sense, and it can give you more time, especially something like this where it's not like a full designed bootleg. Instead, it's just kind of a small thing where you're just getting him outside the pocket. He can make a throw, hit Kelce, especially if Buffalo's going to play a lot of zone coverage. This stuff can work. Although one last play I do have to talk about, because I think this is really worth mentioning, is just how well Buffalo covered in this game. I mean, guys just weren't getting open. And I don't care how good your quarterback is, unless they're going to run with the football and win you a football game that way. You're not going to win a football game if guys aren't getting open. And a quarterback is going to look bad if guys aren't getting open. Watch how when Mahomes takes the snap, you're going to see that. I mean, just look anywhere. Look at any receiver and to see how long this play develops for. Still nothing gets open. Mahomes eventually just slides down, takes a hit there. And, I'll show the play a couple of times just because it's really an interesting study. And okay, that was just amazing coverage. Was that happening every play? No, of course not. Was that happening way too much if you're a Kansas City fan? Absolutely. And that's the concern is for, kind of the way I view this game. And I think it's worth mentioning is there's a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball on both of these two teams. Obviously, Kansas City has Patrick Mahomes. They have Travis Kelce. They have Tyreek Hill. We all know this stuff. Buffalo has some stars as well, specifically Josh Allen, who had a great day, and Stephon Diggs. But the X factor really is just how good Buffalo's defense is. I mean, their defense is really good, and that's going to make things difficult for Kansas City. So here we go. Kansas City, the first time they played Buffalo, they scored 20 points on 10 possessions. I'm excluding the drive where they fumbled on the kickoff. So that one I don't count. But everything else I count. 20 points, 10 possessions. That's 2 points per drive. Kansas City, on average this season, scores an NFL best 2.81 points per drive on the year. Buffalo gives up, I don't believe it's an NFL least, but it's quite up there. I believe it's a top 3 defense at 1.57 points per drive given up on the year. So great on great is what's happening here. I'm going to actually predict something around a score of 2.5 points per drive on 12 drives, which would be 30 points. Now that sounds high, and it is high, but listen, Mahomes is really good, and good offense does beat good defense. If you have a good offense, you are going to find stuff to get open. The Chiefs are just a much better team now than they were the first time these two teams played each other. They'll run the offense well. It's not even a talent thing. It's just a scheme thing. They play a much more methodical style approach, or at least they're willing to do that. Although for the flip side, for Buffalo, I think that they will, still be prepared for it. They're going to try to make that happen. I think that the Chiefs should be able to do a solid job offensively. But as you see in my final prediction, I have the Chiefs scoring 30. I have the Bills scoring 32. I think this is a close game. I think this can go either way. Like I said in my last video, there's such a big difference in what you get when you get a good Josh Allen and a bad Josh Allen game. You could argue the same thing for Patrick Mahomes. When Mahomes has had bad days, it's looked awful. And when he's had good days, he's looked unstoppable. And what I'm hoping for as a fan is we see a great Josh Allen day and a great Patrick Mahomes day and just see amazing on amazing. Both of these teams have such great quarterbacks and such exciting quarterback play, but the difference is, the Chiefs defense has improved a lot since the last time these two teams played, and I think that there's some schematic things that they can do to slow down Buffalo. That's why I have Buffalo scoring less than I think they did last time. I mean, I have them scoring 2.7 points per drive this time, whereas last time they scored 4.2 points per drive. I still think that the Bills' defense is so good. They're so good that they'll hold the Chiefs to 30. That's my prediction. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on all of this? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.